Shalom Aleichem, beautiful Chevra, and it's so exciting that we can meet again. And this is our third meeting now, our third session, and I see there's new faces here, which are very exciting. So, as always, we'll try to learn something new and part with something that's hopefully going to be impactful and that's going to move us. But I'll tell you a secret. If you want to be moved, inspired, or impacted, the truth is you have to allow yourself to do that. You have to choose to allow yourself to be moved. People often ask me, how can I upgrade my life? How can I upgrade my life? I've tried this and I've tried that. My beautiful friends, you are holding all of that wisdom within you. You have it. You are it. And you have to choose to allow yourself to be moved and to be impacted. It's a choice. And you could say just right now, as we sit here, as we deepen our relationship, you can just stop and you can, number one, just come to realize, think about why you're here right now. Why did you turn up? Why did you come and join in? And think about an intention. Set your intention. Why are you here? What do you have to gain from being here? And give yourself an answer. And as well, change your body, sit up straight, round your shoulders back, take a couple of good breaths. That's right. Put a big smile on your face because you are the one that chooses to be moved. You are the one that chooses to be impacted. It's up to you. I choose to be impacted. I choose to be moved by my words. And maybe if I'm gifted, if I'm blessed, I will be inspired. There's so much to speak about. We started to speak about how we can live a fully engaged, healthy life, and that we were created Yashar, and we want to return back to Edenic consciousness. We want to be Yashar once again. The world tells us other things, and we have to not be phased. We have to remember that we're not just like a product of what they tell us. We're something so much more. We've come down from another worldly place into the magnificent gift of the body with all its different elements. We are, though, Yashar. We were created Yashar, as we said. And the Eitzah of Hashem, divine intelligence, is always relating to us. It's happening at all times. Can we hear it or not? There's a beautiful Torah from the Sfasemes and Rav Leibele Eiger that speaks about Yisroi and Avraham. Avram Avinu, Lech Lecha, Yisroi, he came to Moshe. Why? Vayishma Yisroi. Why? Because, my friends, they heard something. But what the Sfarim HaKadoshim tell us, the Sfasemes, Rav Leibele, that a baskol came out to the whole world, but they were the ones to listen. They were the ones to hear. They were open to Makabel. But you know, in Pirkei Avos, we're told there's a bas kol that goes out every single day. This is what we were speaking about, sourcing from the Psukim, that the Eitzah of Hashem is always there. And in Tehillim Lamed Gimel Lag, that from generation to generation, the Eitzah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. That inner intelligence, that inner wisdom, that light, it's there. And everybody has access to it. Everybody always has access to it. And the more that we are Yashar, Yediyah, Shmi, and Re'iyah, the more that we are present, that's the starting of our journey. The more we could start to relate to ourselves, my friends. Adam as in Da Ma'ani. I start to understand myself, who I am, and hopefully going further in inquiring in where I come from and my makeup as a human being, working on understanding more and more human experience. I can enter different states of consciousness that are here for all of us now. And when I understand self, how I work, and my makeup, as hopefully we'll describe a little bit today, then I can understand how to give in this generation. Adam as in Adam, David, Moshiach. Last time we spoke about Ashan, Olam Shana Nefesh, another integral communication of alignment, Olam, Shana, Nefesh, and how that works. Obviously, we just touched upon it. We spoke about Aliyah Sadaris and Yerida Sadaris, and the point that I wanted to part with is that we live in an incredible generation. And as individuals, as a nation, as a human species, even though, and we have to validate the challenges, there are so many challenges, Chazd Hashem, we're doing very, very well. When we have an address of what our ideal state should be, it helps us even more. We should be, as we've spoken about in other places, really, really living the reality of being a spiritual being, having a physical experience. And our definition of the spirit is oneness, achdus, yichud. That it should bother me what my next action is going to birth. Is my next action going to birth unity, oneness? Or chas v'shalom, is a person's next action going to birth more multiplicity, separation, and fracture? That's our choice. That's my choice. That's your choice. And we spoke about how our optimum state is to be a conscious being. And that's what hopefully we will go into today. And what holds us back? Ego self. So hopefully that's our communication today. What I would like to share with us today, all being well, if I can string together a sentence that makes sense to you, I hope that gift will occur. Who knows? And as each time I will share for a bit, and then we will break up into groups, and hopefully we will deepen our experience. So let me start off with a fundamental question. When I ask the question, who are you? Who am I? What comes up? Now, when we ask that question, many answers can come up. Maybe we can say, when asking the question, who am I? Well, am I my thinking? Am I my emotions? Am I my happiness or sadness? Am I my thoughts that come in and out of consciousness? Am I my memories? What about my physical body? Am I my physical body? Am I my pleasures? Am I my pains? Who am I? What am I? And can we work it out? Well, I'd like to start off by suggesting that anything that's transient, we are not. When, for example, a person can move from sadness to happiness. So when sadness dissipates, they don't dissipate. When a person is living in a world and their body is hurting, and then they move to another bodily experience of feeling better. So they didn't become a different person. And we can go on asking questions and questions and questions. I'd like to suggest, though, that there's something behind all of these transient parts of self. And what's behind all of this transient part of self is something which is consistent. It's something which is always in our lifetime. When we were born, we experience it, potentially, and when a person lives their life every single day until they graduate from this world, they have it. We call this in Judaism our consciousness. Das, dat, daled, ayin, taf. We are consciousness. Consciousness is a silent, still, consistent that is behind all of the animation of our thinking. It's that silence which is behind all of the animation of our emotional world and the myriads of emotions that we experience. And consciousness is that consistent that is behind all of our physicality. So we, in Yiddishkeit, we say that we are consciousness. Now, it's very nice I'm saying that, but what's that within experience? So it's important to understand, based on the Rambam, based on the Arizal, the Rambam in Mer Nevuchim, first Chelek Nun Chet, and as well in the Arizal in Eitz Chaim, Shar Aleph Anaf Aleph, Drush Igulim V'Yashar. And what we read there is that you can really only know Hashem through through knowing what Hashem is not. It's called reverse theology. It's a whole concept within itself, a whole teaching within itself, but the basic idea that we want to extrapolate from these two Makairos is that through knowing what I am not, I come to know what I am. And this is something very important. And this is how we start to find ourselves. Now, I know that most of you, I'm speaking to people who have heard these ideas before, but there are a few people here I see that don't know these ideas. So we'll have to take this into consideration and into context. But first, what I wanted to share is that in Jewish sources, in Torah, what we are told is that das, consciousness, awareness, is incredibly important. So, for example, we're told in Nadarim, Nun Aleph, in Nadarim 41a, when a person has this thing called das, then they have everything. And the Gemara goes on to say, when a person doesn't have das, they are truly poor, they're lacking everything. In Vayikra Rabbah, for example, 1:6, we're told, if a person has das, what do they lack? And if a person doesn't have das, what do they have? And this is something very important to understand because it comes out and we go further to say, for example, in the Toldos Yaakov, Yosef, Vayishlach, in the world of the Baal Shem Tov, the world of the Baal Shem Tov tells us as following, that in Mitzrayim we lacked das, in the exile experienced we lacked das, and as we came out of Mitzrayim, we regained this thing that we call das that we haven't defined yet. And one day, Chevra, in our days, Yemais HaMashiach, right now, in these days in which we are living, my friends, we have to come to articulate, come to accent, come to awaken what this das is and start living from a place of das. It's interesting, the Ben Esaschar and Igre de Kala in Ki Sisa tells us that the Chiyas of Am Yisrael comes from our das. And in Parashat Ekev, all starts from das. If we refer, for example, to a beautiful makor in the Derech HaChaim of the Maharal of Prague, 3:17, chapter 3, Mishnah 17, the Maharal writes that all Avodas Hashem, all of personal growth starts with das. You have to be in a state of das. And I could bring more and more and more sources coming to share the importance of das. For example, Toras Avram, Rav Avram Grudzinski, the father of one of my teachers, Rabbi Yitzchak Grudzinski, Toras Avram of das, he writes that the Ikar of Adam, the main articulation of the human being, the main aspect of the human being is the human being's das, consciousness. Likutei Maharan, Rabbi Nachman speaks about this so many times. And our relationship with self, our relationship with other, our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all revolves around the quality of our das. So let's try to understand a little bit about this experience. So first of all, let's work backwards. Let's come to understand who we are not. So in Jewish tradition, the Torah comes to teach us that we as human beings experience reality through three modes of experience. We all experience physical sensation. So what is physical sensation? Physical sensation is pressure, tension, looseness, tightness. Physical sensation is hot and cold. So we as human beings have physical sensation as one of our modes of human experience. There's another mode of human experience, and that is the myriads of emotions that we experience. Happy, excited, sad, depressed. And all these different emotions that come with the world of emotions. So we experience life through the mode of physical sensations and through the mode of emotions. And we as well experience the world through our thinking. And as a number of us already know, our thinking manifests as imagery and sound. So right now, as you're listening to me, Right now, as we're here together, just stop for a moment and you can ask yourself a question. And the question is, what am I physically sensing right now? As I sit, how are my hands positioned? How's my body positioned? How's my torso positioned? Can I become aware of my feet touching the ground or whatever they are resting on? So you can ask yourself, what am I physically aware of right now in the present moment? But then as well, you can become aware of your emotions. What emotions are you experiencing right now in the present moment? Non-judgmentally place your attention upon your emotions. And maybe an experience as strange as it may be, ask yourself, what am I thinking? Can I notice that I could be aware of my thinking? So what I would like to suggest to you is that I can be aware of my physical sensations, I could be aware of my emotions, and I could be aware of my thinking. In human experience, I experience thinking and I am not my thinking. I experience emotions and I am not my emotions. I experience physical sensations. I am not my physical sensations. I'm the part that's behind that. Now, again, this could be the first time we're listening to this information, so take it as it comes. Just listen to the words. We are the witness. And in fact, the word aid, Ein Daled, is within the word dat. And there's qualities to what das can do, what our consciousness, the truer inner self, can do. For example, in Parshas Chaya Sarah 24:21, Eliezer, when looking for a girl for his servant's son, Eliezer das, he observes the girls by the well. Onkelos says that das means to observe. So one quality which we've just experienced now is that das is the quality of observing. Das is the quality of observing. It's a quality of awareness. As we know, this is one of the main themes in the teachings of Rabbi Nachman and several other Hasidic masters, because really what the Baal Shem Tov wanted to megale to us once again was to be a baldas, a balas das. So in Likutei Eitzos Daled Ois Beis, the quality of das determines the quality of our life. We speak about, for example, in Devarim 19, verse 4, the lack of awareness is called the lack of das. So we have das as in awareness, and we just experience this. Now, if, my friends, I can experience something, then I'm separated from it. Obviously, I can pull back from it. I'm separated. So there's das of awareness, das consciousness. I could be aware of my hands right now. Ask yourself, what am I feeling in my hands right now? Pick your hands up. What am I feeling in my legs right now? I can do that. What emotions am I experiencing right now? So we can do that. So das as in awareness, but then das as in separation. So another quality of our consciousness is we can separate. So in Shoftim, chapter 8, verse 16, das is a loshon of separation. See there, Targum and Rashi. And also, if we refer to, for example, the Yerushalmi in Brachos chapter 5, if a person has no das, how can they experience Havdalah, separation? So we have das as in witnessing, das as in separating by definition. If I can observe it, I am not it, I can separate from it. But then das is connection. I can choose to interact. I can choose to relate. I can choose to join and bond to something. So our consciousness has the ability to bond and bind and connect to something. So Bereshis, 4th chapter, verse 1, we speak about Adam and Chava. And Likutei Maran, 1st Chelek, teaching 43, Nun Gimel. And then there's a slew of other works that come to teach us about Das is in connection. So my consciousness, our consciousness, comes to share with us that we can observe, we can separate, and we can connect. Now, why is this so important? Because, my friends, as we live life, when we come to recognize that we are beings from Eden, and we want to come back to Edenic consciousness, our state is a state of wholesomeness, shleimus. Our state, all of us as human beings, we are meant to be in flow, naran, aligned, yashar. This can only start to properly occur when we can get into a state of das. Because, my beautiful friends, when we come to see, hear, and feel the reality of what happened when Adam Rishon ate from the tree, when Adam and Chava ate from the tree, what we say in words is that Adam and Chava's consciousness fell into the ego. We have what we call a neshama, then we have ruach, and then we have the nefesh. In our codification, the nefesh is where all our human experiences are coming from, where our memories are coming from. In the nefesh, it's where our physical sensations as an experience, our emotions as an experience, and our thinking, our fleeting thoughts as an experience, it's where they live. So, for example, if you think about it, so many people live the same emotions and thoughts every single day that they have been living for 10, 15, 20 years. So we can all forecast, if I'm limiting my thinking, my physical sensations and my emotions to a very limited set of experiences, then I can forecast what's going to be tomorrow. Really, if we think about it, the emotions and our thinking are a history of where we've come from. And if I'm limiting myself to that history, as we say, our biography is not our destiny. When I'm a baldas, a balastas, when I can become a conscious being and I can come out of, when I know I am not my thinking, I experience thinking, I am not my feelings, I experience feelings, I'm not my physical sensations, I experience physical sensations. When I can pull out of that and I can choose to relate to my thinking, I can choose to relate to my emotions, I can choose to relate to my physical sensations. So if a thought comes up and it's not helpful to me, I can choose to ignore or explore it, because we are always relating to our thinking in the present moment. So when a person says, I am stressed, we can respond once we have a grasp on this science that, no, you're relating to your thinking, which is stressful thinking in the present moment. Change your thinking, change your experience. Change your emotions, change your experience. Change your physical sensations, change your experience. And the more we can be conscious beings, the more we can choose to ignore or explore. We can choose to relate to our lower self, so to speak, the ego self, in a different way. So, for example, we've already said everything is about energy. And I take this energy in, and that energy becomes my higher cognitive experience. And I can choose, how do I want to relate to my self, my lower self at this point in time? So, for example, when a person thinks that they are their thinking, so if they have depressing thinking, they think they are depressed. When a person has unhealthy emotions, so they think that that's what is. But really what we are being told in the world of Torah, in the world of Avodah, is that when we know that we are consciousness and we are in this bodysuit, and within this bodysuit there are the abilities to think, fleeting thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. And me, consciousness, I am controlling this. If you want to refer beautifully to the Cheshbon HaNefesh, there's a horse and there is a rider. So you are the rider of the horse. You are not the horse. And you can guide like a computer. You can program. You can train. And the more that we learn what the experience is of knowing that I have thoughts and I'm not my thoughts, I have emotions and I'm not my emotions, and I experience physical sensations, I'm not my physical sensations, the more I can train the animal in a healthy way. It's not bad. The animal's not bad, but I can train my guf. I can train my emotions. I can train my thinking. And how do we do that? So first of all, kapshutai, simply, just by being present and changing your body. That's why physiologically it's so important. Your body should be healthy and strong. Exercise. Stand tall. Make sure your muscles and your heart, your whole system is strong. That's really important. You change your physiology. That's really powerful. And put a smile on your face. You can change your state. There's energy, as we said last time. There's chiyus coming down. That chiyus meets me. What do I do with it? I could take that chiyus. I could take that life force. And from taking that life force, I can change my body. I can change my emotionality. That's going to impact the way I manifest in this world. As we said, based on Sefer Yetzirah, I think we didn't say it in our group, did we? We said it in another group. But in Sefer Yetzirah, you have what we call the letters. We have the digits, which is energy packets. Then we have the stringing together of those letters. They become words. They become a story. And then we have a book. We have the Sipur and the Sefer. 3 ingredients of reality in the beginning of Sefer HaYetzirah. This, what we can share is like this. There's energy coming down. You change your state. You have a better probability of giving yourself a better story. You change your story, you can come up with better strategies, which is to do with Sefer, the book. So the more I'm energized, the more I know that I have a body, and within this bodysuit, because the only way I can come down to this world is within the bodysuit. Just as a person goes to space, this is a beautiful Torah from Rabbi Moshe Shapira, just as a person goes to space, they have to wear a spacesuit. So when the soul and consciousness comes down to this world, we have to have a bodysuit. And within that bodysuit, we have our thinking, emotions, and physical sensations. That's part of the bodysuit. But you, consciousness, you are the part behind that, the constant silent part that has the ability to generate, gain, develop a mastery over our machinery. And this is why we can learn to say that our biography is not our destiny. What we have lived so far is not our destiny. The more conscious I become, the more I could know that I can separate and I can observe. I can observe and separate from my thinking, feelings, and physical sensations. And I can tap into higher levels of thinking, more cognitive, more focused levels of thinking, better feelings, better physical sensations. I have that ability. You have that ability, my friends. So we can say either the mind can be a place of Garden of Eden, it could be a place of paradise, or chas v'shalom, a person's mind can be a place of hell. And what we're saying is that when we are sitting here right now, das is our ability to, stage 1, become present. Just become present. Become present, feeling the ground under our feet, noticing, doing a check-in. Where am I in my body? Where am I in my emotions? Where am I in my thinking? Yediyah, Shmiya, and Re'iyah. Yashar. That's how we start to align ourselves. I know that I have these parts of me and I'm not that. And I can develop a mastery over my machinery. I can become the mechanic over my machinery. I could learn to be present. And from being present, I could learn to choose my state. Again, Chevra, right now, as we speak, sit up straight. Sit up straight. Put a smile on your face. Yeah! We don't have to have a reason to celebrate. We don't have to have a reason to be happy. You could just do it because it's good. It's nice to be nice, and it's horrible to be horrible. Simply. No airs and graces. Simply. Sit up straight. Stretch your arms. Gewaltig. Put a smile on your face. I can choose it. I can get into a state of das. Again, how? At first, just ask yourself, what am I physically feeling right now? What emotions am I experiencing right now? What thinking am I experiencing? Do that check-in. Become present. Do the check-in. Choose your state. We call this, in Yiddishkeit, we call this hislavus, hislavut. Lohev, to love, becoming a lover of life, to becoming engaged. We have an architecture to the soul. We have an architecture to the soul. We were made, again, Torah is so sophisticated. It's simple and Torah is so sophisticated. And you and I, we can reach levels of consciousness. We can grow in our consciousness. We can become far more conscious than we actually are. As we live from day to day, you could become aware of your feeling, your physical sensations, your emotions, and your thinking. And you could choose to ignore or explore. Right now, you can ask, what am I thinking? And become aware of it. And if you don't like it, you could just focus on something you do want. So, for example, if a person hears in their mind, oh, I'm not good enough, you could just smile and you could say, I know you are there. Consciousness, das, with your conscious thinking can say, I know you are there. Okay. If you're feeling a certain feeling, you could identify with it. We call this in Yiddishkeit the child within. The nefesh, the lower self, is called a child. It does everything it can to protect you and help you. And sometimes we're living in the past, as we said. Sometimes our emotionality, our thinking patterns, our physical sensations, we trigger and we come back to a place of protection. Anger, we're protecting ourselves. When we sometimes don't feel well and there's no reason not to feel well, we're protecting ourselves. One of my kids, actually, it's interesting. One of my kids were, they have an exam coming up and their stomach hurts. All of a sudden, their stomach hurts, their head hurts. We're trying constantly to protect ourselves. The ego wants to protect ourselves. The more that I know I am consciousness, which again, we haven't really gone into, all we've said is there's qualities of consciousness. I am the witness. I could separate and I can connect. So I could become present, place my attention on my breath, just do a check-in, and I can choose, am I where I want to be right now? Do I need something? How many of you have gone through the day and you didn't hydrate properly and you didn't even notice? Or one of you, I know for sure, will go through the whole day and you're not going to eat, and you only notice later on in the evening when you're in a bad mood and you don't feel so good. Check-ins, becoming present, checking in. What am I physically sensing? What am I emotionally experiencing? What am I thinking right now? What do I need? Do I need something? I could choose to ignore or explore a thought. I'm always relating to my thinking in the present moment. And I am that part. I'm that part. I'm that silence and stillness. It's very difficult to define what consciousness is. We could speak around it. That's why we speak about reverse theology. We figure out what we are not to come to figure out more of what we are. And we will never really figure out what we are. The same way in reverse theology with Hashem. I know Hashem's not this and I know Hashem's not that. To find out what Hashem is, we'll never do. Hashem is Ein Sof. Same with us. Our consciousness is Ein Sof. We can just get closer and closer and closer, peeling away the layers and layers and layers. Because the more I'm in my nefesh, the more my das drops into my nefesh, the more I'm enveloped by my thinking, feelings, and physical sensations, and they are unhealthy, it's not going to be a good outcome. When I can catch myself, when I can ground myself, come out of myself, observe, and I choose, what do I want to be experiencing right now? I can have a better relationship with myself. I can have a better relationship with people around me. I can grow. Obviously, I'm just speaking very general things, but we have a sophisticated approach to understanding the human experience. And we, in our day and age, the only way we can hold the craziness that's going on in the world is by becoming more of a baldas, a balas das, developing my consciousness, experiencing quiet in my mind, quiet mind. And it is doable. It is attainable. Remember, I'm always relating to my thinking in the present moment. I'm always relating to my emotions in the present moment. I could choose to ignore or explore. What does that mean practically? If a thought comes up I don't like, I can say, I know you're there, and then place your attention on something you do want to be doing. The next stage, again, is learning to communicate with the different parts within us, das, communicating with the different children within. One of my teachers used to call it the Gan Yeladim. And the more I build a healthier relationship with myself, the more my nefesh becomes my friend. The more I can train that horse, and I'm now working with that horse. I'm not like, there's a wise old man, And the wise old man is sitting at the side of the road, and he notices a youngster on a horse, and the horse is running up the road and down the road, up the road and down the road. And this wise man, he gets up and he puts his hand to stop the horse, and the rider says, "Why are you riding up and down?" And the rider says, "I don't know, ask the horse." But that's how many people live their life. We have the ability to come to a place of silence. We have the ability to build a relationship with ourselves, to quieten our mind. Again, our mind could be a place of hell, or our mind could be a place of paradise, Gan Eden. And we have to learn how our machinery works, and we can. Stage one is just simply asking, what am I feeling right now? Grounding yourself, doing a check in, what am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling in my emotions? What am I thinking right now? I could choose to ignore or explore. I could change my state. I think you're getting a sense of how to do that. Just change your body. Change your emotions. Put a smile on your face. So powerful. So powerful. So many muscles in our face. For so many people, it's a place of unemployment. We can recruit, we can use, and we can change our energy. And when we do start to do that, then we can tap into insight. Because when we can quieten the nefesh, well, we can come out of the nefesh and we can be in a state of das, we create, guess what? An alignment. Neshama ruach nefesh, the light of the neshama, the voice, that still voice, that quiet voice that's always there. It's now far more easily heard. As we said, Rabbis machshavos belevish, when consciousness is enveloped in the lower self, the ego self, it's very difficult to hear that noise. Rabbis machshavos belevish, but when we can become conscious, when I can separate, place my attention on my breath, become self-aware and let go, then I could start to hear that voice. I could start to hear that divine wisdom that's always there, can open up to the world of the neshama. I'll just share with you two stories before we end. I know we've gone over our time. I just want to share two stories before we end. Both stories are very, very similar, but I think it will give us the ability to just have a deeper understanding with what we are speaking about. And just to remind us, this is a whole science, as a lot of you know. And for those who don't know, if it's the first time you're hearing this, it's okay. Take what you can get. First story is, once upon a time, there is a young man, once upon a time, there's an older man. And this older man, he has a farm. And he wants to, one day, he says, I want to clean my farm out, my farm yard, my barn. I want to clean the barn out. And he goes into his barn and he spends several hours cleaning his barn. And by the end of the day, the barn is beautifully organized. Everything is where it needs to be. And he stands outside the barn looking and feeling really good with what he did. And then he picks his arm up, his wrist up to look at the time. And he realizes after a couple of moments, where's my watch? But this is no ordinary watch. This is the watch of his grandfather. And he thinks to himself, oh, where is my watch? Yeah, I had it this morning. So it must have fallen off, and it must be in the nice, new, clean barn that he just worked on. And this is his grandfather's watch. He goes back inside and he starts looking around, rummaging here, rummaging there. Before you know it, he's made such a mess of his barn. But he didn't find his grandfather's wristwatch. Oh, okay, he comes outside and he thinks to himself, okay, let's work on it tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, this man comes out and he looks at the barn and he thinks, okay, I have to find that wristwatch. And he sees some kids walking along the path. And he says to the kids, maybe you can help me. If you can find my grandfather's rich wristwatch, which I've lost in the barn that I did tidy up yesterday, I'll give you some chocolate. And the few kids go inside and they're looking and rummaging. And by this time, that which was nice and clean is an absolute, a pigsty, not a barn anymore, a pigsty. But it's crazy. And no one found this watch. So all the kids came out. And even though they didn't find the watch, the guy's a nice guy and he gives them the chocolate and they go on their way. One kid comes back to this older man and says, Mister, please let me go try again. And the older man says, listen, it's getting dark. There's no light in the barn. It's getting dark. How are you going to find it? He says, let me just try, please. So the boy goes inside. 5 to 6 minutes later, he comes out and he says, Mister, look, I found your watch. And the man looks at this young man, this young boy, and he says, how? How did you do it? So the young boy says, well, I went into the barn and I just stood and fell to my knees and I just listened really, really quietly. And I picked up this ever so faint tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. And I gently got up and I followed it carefully, cautiously, until I came to which I believed the loudest point of the tick-tock. And I put my hand in a bale of hay and I rummaged around. And I felt something cold, metallic, and I pulled out your watch. Chevra, the first message is a simple message that the tick-tock is always there. We just have to quieten ourselves down. The second story is ever so similar. Same message, I just like the story. And what is that? Once upon a time there is a young man standing next to a pond. And he's got a stick and he's prodding at something, prodding and prodding and prodding. And an older man, an old wise man, passes the young man and says to the young man, what are you doing? And the young man says, I'm busy right now, I'm busy, let me finish. And the wise man says, tell me what you're doing, maybe I can help. And the young man already been there a number of hours prodding and, this water, with a stick in the water, and it's completely, this pond is completely, it's black from the sediment at the bottom. And he goes, okay, come on, okay, I'll tell you what's going on. So the young man proceeds to tell this old wise man that his father gave him a pot of gold, a box of gold as a Yerusha, as a dowry, and his father just died. And the numbers his father told him are at the bottom of a pond, and the numbers are embossed on a stone at the bottom of a pond. And there's piranhas, I can't just go in and it's deep. But every single time I go in to try and get this stone out, so I can just see the letters, and then I try to get the stone out. I see the numbers, but then I mix around all the sediment, and now I can't see anything. It becomes all cloudy. The water becomes completely and utterly cloudy. And the wise man said, okay, let's go have a look. So the young man reaches for his stick, and the wise man says, no, leave your stick. And they both walk over. And this is an hour or so later, and the older man, says to the young man, just look inside. Just look inside this pond or this river, whatever it is. Just look inside. And the water is still crystal clear. And he sees all of the numbers, which is for the code on the box. He sees it really clearly, without even trying. The wise man is the soul. The soul is very wise. The young man is, so to speak, consciousness. And the pond is our nefesh. It's our ego self. Who does the young man listen to? The young man thinks, stick the stick in the water, trying to get, this wisdom that's within us. Sometimes we just have to calm down. Sometimes we just have to quieten ourselves. We don't have to dig everything up. We don't have to give in to all our thinking, physical sensations and emotions. Sometimes things become cloudy. When we can get into a state of consciousness, when we can learn to observe and witness that which is going on. And either we can choose to ignore or explore. Sometimes when we explore, and it's not the right time to explore, we can dig up things that we don't want to dig up, that's not helpful for us. Sometimes where we would have needed to just ignore, then all the wisdom is there, because I can tap into the soul. Okay, what we're going to do now, my friends, is just do a very, very quick recap, and then we're going to break up into our partners just share what are things that I've heard today that I could take away today. We spoke about how we are conscious beings and we come down from the Edenic world, from Olam Haba, and we have a bodysuit, and part of our bodysuit is our thinking, feeling, and physical sensation. They're part of you, but they're not you. You are consciousness. You are the stillness. You are the consistent stillness, the consistent consciousness that's behind all of the noise. And we can always tap into it. The way we tapped into it today was just asking simple questions, becoming present and asking, what am I physically experiencing? What am I emotionally experiencing? What am I thinking right now? To come to realize that I'm always relating to my thinking in the present moment and my emotions in the present moment I can choose to ignore or explore. It's a much bigger subject, and we can start the conversation and from there grow, hopefully. So Baruch Hashem, we're doing really well. Chesed Hashem, we're doing really, really well. And may we find ourselves in a very deep way. And remember, our biography is not our destiny. Our story that we've lived so far is not our destiny. And we can change by being present our state, by changing our physiology, obviously by doing our check-in, but a big smile on your face. Take a few deep breaths and remember that we are magnificent. Say the Heilige Chevra, Bracha, Mazel, and Hatzlacha. Let's get to work.